Hello and welcome to the Skincare Confidential podcast. I am Dr. Ted Lane. I'm a board-certified dermatologist, your host for today's episode. I'm also a co-founder of the Science of Skincare Summit, happening in Austin, September 21st to the 23rd, 2023. But I am so excited to have with me as our guest Miss Heather Hughes. So Heather is the Group Vice President and General Merchandise Manager for Walgreens, in charge of beauty, personal care, and seasonal. And Heather is also a registered pharmacist. So I'm not sure how she jumped from being a registered pharmacist to her day job, but it sure is huge. She started with Walgreens in 2001 and has really just moved her way up the ladder from there very, very quickly. So Heather, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Ted. So good to see you.
So Heather and I know each other because we met at a retail alliance, essentially a meeting where retailers and dermatologists and pharmacists were all kind of paired together to talk about how we can improve outcomes for patients. It really was all focused on the consumer or the patient, depending on who you were talking to. And it was eye-opening to say the least for me. I don't know how you felt, Heather.
I totally agree. It's, you don't have a lot of opportunities to get together, one, with other retailers with the same focus, but then two, to get together with dermatologists and experts in the area to have just really profound conversations, push the elements and how we partner together. So it was fantastic. My first one to ever go to, and I know it was only the second one that had ever existed, but I'm very much looking forward to attending it next year.
Yeah, me too. It was really, as I said, eye-opening, enlightening, and I think we're going to be able to really make some change and help people when they get to the shelf at Walgreens, for example, help them inform them better so that they can make better decisions and make sure they're getting the right product for what they need, which I think is the goal.
Absolutely, and I 100% agree. And I even, a takeaway was forming a sun care consortium, and we've already taken that and run with it. And we had our first meeting, and we're having more to say, how do we as retailers and derms help our patients, customers with the right SPF and protection that they need for their skin. So I love it. I think a lot of actions that we've already taken and lots of opportunities going forward.
Can't wait. So that was one big action item actually from last year was, in terms of sunscreen in particular and sun care, what can we do to make sure that there are products available for every price point and make sure that the products have the right ingredients and are merchandised appropriately and advertised appropriately. So can't wait to see what comes out of that sun care consortium. But Heather, can we just focus on you for a second? Tell us how in the world you jump from being a registered pharmacist to your day job now. Can you just walk us through your career?
Yeah. So, I went to school, obviously studied pharmacy, practiced as a pharmacy manager for Walgreens. And as I was in the role, I went into the profession because I wanted to help people and knew I needed to help people in a medical sense. I have always loved healthcare and everything about it, the science, and that the result you can help people. And so I wanted to step into a role where I could help more people. And so I came up into pharmacy side of the business actually, and then met a lot of people in merchandising and moved over into that business, in particular in healthcare. So I was doing a lot of work in merchandising as it pertained to our over-the-counter products, vitamins, wellness products, and then fell in love with the business too. So being able to touch many lives with the products they need, support our pharmacists in the stores, and then I kind of jumped around with various categories, which pushed me on the business side. But I love right now, I have had the opportunity now to come into our beauty and personal care business at right moment in time, because it is the time where healthcare and beauty have come so close together and kind of more of this, how do I take care of myself in the best, most holistic way? And in particular, skincare is at the center, I think, of where that comes together. So I have a ton of passion, like I said, around health and being able to bring that to our customers. And so that's how it happened. I know it seems like the craziest of journeys, but I do think I might be the right person to help bridge this together at a point in time when the customers are asking for it.
I love the passion, right? Especially the passion for skincare, because that absolutely resonates with our audience, I'm sure. And Heather has been named one of the 50 most influential women in retail by mass market retailers the last 3 years. So
Thank
congratulations. We
you.
absolutely have the right person here. Tell me, could you define merchandising? Because I'm not sure everyone listening understands truly what that means.
Yeah, so in the most simplest of terms, merchandising, they're the group of folks that decide which products are going to be brought into a retailer, and they work with various teams to decide what the price is going to be, what kind of value we want to offer to the customer, and truly decide how that shows up on shelf, how we merchandise it, what we put on display. And so when a customer walks in, they see all these products. Merchandising chose those products for the customer and put them there in that fashion in the way they shop.
I mean, you have so much power, honestly, right? If you think about it, I've had the opportunity to present to Walmart. I remember I was representing a brand or a couple of brands, and I went to the Walmart headquarters and I met with the people there that kind of determine what's going to be on their shelves. And I left Bentonville thinking, wow, they have so much power in terms of kind of what's the next big thing in skincare, especially mass market skincare, and what people have, what's available to the market. I don't know if they realize that, but how do you decide, like from a retailer viewpoint, from your viewpoint, like what are the key aspects of the new products that you think, okay, this is going to do well for our consumer, or this won't resonate?
So, as much as it feels like maybe we have the power, because we do, we ultimately decide, I think the customers have the power. So, what's great is we have so much data. And I mean, social media allows us to understand where customers are turning and what's trending and what they are focused on. So, you kind of couple all that together and look at their shopping behavior and patterns. And that allows you to choose what types of products interest them on shelf. And in particular, what types of problems they're trying to solve, so we can choose the right products to put on the shelf for that. Because sometimes they can be misled on the types of products they think they need, but rather focusing on what is it they're trying to solve and making sure we put those products on the shelf for them. So I always like to say the customer is doing the voting, and we're putting those products there based on their voting. And their voting is through what
Right.
they purchase and what they are focused on.
Okay, so it's really like kind of behind the scenes, there is a huge amount of data that you're using to determine what's kind of what needs to go on the shelf, which totally makes sense. And I would imagine Walgreens in particular, because of the pharmacy there, you really know kind of, okay, people are, I'm making this up. People this month people are having a lot of acne, so we really need to kind of put the acne products front and center, or it's eczema time or something like that. Am I right? Or can you use the
It's a
pharmacy
little
data?
tricky, so I'm going to do a legal disclaimer here. Obviously, I haven't worked in the pharmacy in a few years. However, we are HIPAA compliant in all data that we
Sure.
use. And
Sure.
so, you cannot get at a granular level with the data. So we are very focused on the front end side of the data and understanding the customers. But there's certainly trends that we understand that happen, right? You know when people are getting sick, when it's certain times of
Right.
year where the sun is more impactful than other times of the year. Therefore, photosensitive medications might be more important to even stress how much an SPF is
Mhm.
important. So there's ways to use your intuition of how seasons flow without the true data, to help drive decisions that support the data we can use on the front end side of the business.
I noticed the last time I was in a pharmacy that the pharmacist, kind of right around where the pharmacy is in the store, there's a lot more skincare than I remember there ever being. And I noticed that the pharmacist, or maybe it was a pharmacy tech, was asking me about, hey, do you know about, the gentle skincare? Or it was something to that effect. And so there must be more education happening at the pharmacist level as
You
well.
are spot on. So we are on a journey right now to we have two roles in our stores. One's the pharmacist and then one's our beauty consultants. But for the pharmacy, we're trying to make sure there's this good bridge between our beauty consultants that are in the store and our pharmacists. And pharmacists, when they go to school, they do get a certain amount of education on skincare, but products change, ingredients change, how those come together change. And so there's ongoing education and continuing education that we make available to our pharmacists to allow for those conversations, and then making sure there's products there that are easy for them to access to support their patients as they come back and have those conversations.
So I'm super curious in terms of if a skincare brand, right, is working on a new line or a new product, will they early on come to you and say, "Hey, do you think this will, you would like this, or consumers would like this?" Because I know they have their own data, of course. And so I'm just wondering how complicit the retailers are with product development.
I would say, and I've worked in healthcare, so I'll say broad senses, the best suppliers come to the retailers early to get those inputs on as they're
Okay.
making the product and as it's, here's the insights, here's where we are, and we work under an NDA, right? So all of that is
Yeah.
never to reach anybody but the team that's in front of them, and then allow for our inputs of what we're seeing, what might be a challenge. Product makes a ton of sense, maybe the approach on how they want to deliver the product could be different, and then they bring us on the journey all the way along, all the way through packaging. I will tell you,
Mm.
merchants see many more product failures, brand failures than a brand team ever will. So it's super critical to bring us in early. It's free consulting, quite frankly, to help the products be more successful. So those who do it well bring us in early. And so it's a lot of fun as I've entered into beauty and personal care to make those connections with our skincare leaders, for supplier leaders, to make sure that we're more upfront in having those conversations too.
Gosh, I can just imagine. I mean, I know that there's so many focus groups that happen with consumers when skincare brands are developing new products, and now I'm sure they're doing the same thing with retailers as well. Like you said, it's free consulting. Who wouldn't take advantage of that, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things when I go into the store, I'm just using myself. I don't know why, but every time I go into the store, I see the Walgreens brand, right? And I wonder, we're aware as physicians in terms of generics versus brand names, prescriptions, and how they're alike and how they can differ under that definition. But in terms of store brand skincare products, how is there any kind of a requirement in terms of how they are supposed to mimic the brand name?
So, as you mentioned, right, the FDA is quite particular as to anything that's FDA approved. It has an active ingredient. We have strict requirements if we want to say, compared to an actual FDA approved product, strict requirements on
Hmm.
how that product will show up. It's actually what's driven our health and wellness business, because consumers do need value on the shelf, and we need to make sure
Sure.
that we offer options that can deliver a value offering with the same active ingredients. It is not dissimilar within the skincare realm. So when you think about products with true active ingredients, FDA approvals, if we're saying compare and save, it's because those formulations are truly comparable within what the FDA would limit that to. So to me, those are cut and dry. And quite frankly, I think there's tons of opportunity where I think we can expand more, just because there's so many more derm-led, active ingredient-led brands and products out there that we can offer more of own brand, Walgreens brand, quality product at a value to our customers. Now, with that being said, there are products that don't have active ingredients, and it's more of a formulation of, inactives that have non-FDA regulated actives, if you will. And so on those, we're still formulating them. And if we say compare and save, it is because we're formulating them to be very similar within those margins that the FDA allows on that
Hmm.
same thought. Make sure the quality is the same on the products. So it's our heritage. It's what Walgreens has always been within that healthcare space. And I see that the same in skincare.
I see that development of these kind of Walgreens branded products to compare against the retailer, to compare against the brand name, excuse me, as really pushing the skincare companies to develop newer and better products, right?
Absolutely.
Because otherwise they're going to lose market share to Walgreens, and so they have to come out with something better. I just don't see that as a negative. I'm sure if I were to talk to a skincare company, they may have a better view. But in terms of product development, it really must push them to constantly come out with something new. Obviously, there's only so many actives that are approved, right, by the FDA. There's only so many monographed ingredients, for example. But reformulating, enhanced formulation, better penetration, that kind of thing, that is kind of the result of these store brands. Do you agree with
I
that?
totally agree. And I also think sometimes there's price points that just are not accessible to a fair amount of our customers that walk in the door. And
Yeah.
so it does allow some of our customers who would love to have those branded products but can't really afford them the opportunity to have the same kind of experience for their skincare. So I view it as that. And then I think you're spot on. It pushes our national brand suppliers to continue to formulate, push an innovation, continue to, deliver what the next great innovative product can be. And then we allow that innovation comes out, it's theirs to own. And customers obviously respond to new innovation that allows them some new way of taking care of their skin.
Are you also in charge of nutraceuticals, kind of the supplements that people take to improve their skin?
So I am not. In my role today, I do not own vitamins and supplements. It falls within our health and wellness team. My disclaimer here is I have been in the past responsible for those categories. So I'm very familiar with it.
It's pretty apparent for those of us who work a lot in the skincare industry and try and educate our peers and consumers about it, that what's happening now is we're taking a more holistic view of skincare, where it's not just what is applied from the outside, but it's also what you're taking inside, right? And so, the idea of vitamins and supplements and replenishing deficiencies such as vitamin D is gaining more and more traction. And I think it's going to be supplementary to skincare in a skincare regimen. And so I'm wondering, is Walgreens doing anything in terms of consumer education around that?
Yeah. So first off, I want to say I completely agree with you on your sentiment on how you take care of inside is just as much as how you take care of the topical components too. And Walgreens, and when I say Walgreens, retailers tend to have these located in very different spots, and we're not talking to the customer in that way. We show up a little bit in whoever internally is responsible for those categories are overseeing it. So we're focused on how do we bring that together. So we're testing some things, not to reveal any, big top strategic things that Walgreens is doing, but we're testing some things where we're putting a full solution in to say, okay, well, this with education on shelf, training to our beauty consultants, and training with the pharmacists to say, okay, how does this all show up together? How does the customer respond to that being together? And so we can understand it to have more of a rollout approach in the future. So it's absolutely something we're looking at. But the first thing we have to do is bring the products together, because it's just not intuitive for the customer to even know to ask the question until we do that.
So much of this relies on consumer education. And that's where, as I've learned from you and others, so many consumers run into the store for one thing and then they run out with the engine running in their car, right? And we all think, oh, hey, if we put point of sale education, whether it's a video or if it's a QR code, of course people will stop and listen and educate themselves. But in fact, that's not the behavior of the consumer at all. And so that piece I'm learning is super difficult to really utilize everything, because so much work is being done on the back end just to educate the consumer. But you can have it available, but if they're not consuming that education, it does nobody any good. And I think that's the rub, right? Is just really figuring out how to change consumer behavior in the store so that they do spend another couple of minutes to learn about, hey, this supplement goes really well with this skincare for this condition.
Yes. You hit it right on the head. So our consumer at a Walgreens, so think drug channel, they're in our store for 7 to 8 minutes on average. So maybe some stay a little longer and we're lucky, but most, that is how long they're in there. And if you think about it, right, they had a list. It's probably like 5 or 6 items that are on this list that they need to grab while they're in the store and quickly get out. Now, if I remove the friction, so some of the things that are cut and dry to grab, that allows them to have a few more minutes to spend in our aisles, which is what we find, so that they would take really bite-sized information that we might give them at shelf. And so that's how we have to think about it. If we try to do a full education at shelf, it will never happen. They won't even see it. It'll be cluttered to the eyes. If it's true bite-sized to direct, and then you couple that with, they can have a person there in store to ask a question to help them quickly find what they're looking for, That is where we find the true success. We all know too, many will do the research before they come into the store. So connecting our digital and how we educate digitally, how you might shop digitally back to the store is critical too.
There you go. Connecting with the consumer before they even enter the store. That's got to be a big hurdle. That's incredible. It's funny when I go to Walgreens, I sit there for like 30 minutes, right? Because I'm always up and down the shelves looking at what's available. And it's, my kids come with me and they're like, Dad, we gotta go.
My kids feel the same way. We do store visits. I get talked into buying so many
Yeah,
things, but they know it's a win for them.
right. I just wanted to turn real quick to Boots number 7, because I don't know how many people realize, but Walgreens acquired Boots, and Boots is a UK brand, right?
Correct.
And there are, what, I think maybe 1 or 2 SKUs in the Boots line in Walgreens stores. Am I right about
Oh
that?
yeah, we have several SKUs in the Boots line.
Several.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Boots has over 80 years of science, the number one skincare line in the UK, and obviously more affordable prices too. So we've been able to bring it into our stores, the full suite of offering into our stores, which is really exciting to have such a great, credible brand backed by science, which, yes, we own, another team owns over there, and we partner really
Yeah.
well. Really excited. We have a new product they're going to be launching. So you'll hear it here first. Future Renew is coming, and it'll be in our stores at the very end of May. And you'll see it
Okay.
at Walgreens for about a month before you see it in the marketplace. So with the intent of a new mix of various peptides to reverse some of the damage that has been made to the skin. So super
Yeah.
exciting.
Well, I know they come in at a very compelling price point, and we met with there was a formulator at a recent conference. Dr. Ferris and I went to. Dr. Patty Ferris is a co-founder and co-host of this podcast, and she spent a lot of time speaking with the formulator, and she came away so impressed with what they're doing at the price point that's available in the Walgreens store. It's kind of incredible, honestly.
I love that. Love hearing that because they're doing a lot of great work. And I mean, we feel super fortunate that it's kind of our sister company that we get to partner with and bring to marketplace.
Yeah.
So I love what they're doing as well. It's wonderful for our customers.
Yeah, it is. It's great for the customers. And when I've been in England before and I've seen the Boots brand, and it's like 80 or something. You say 80 years, but I mean, there's a ton of products in their
Yeah.
line as well. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for Walgreens to bring that over, as you said, and just have more offerings at different price points. And what we're learning now is, we used to think that the different price points kind of really equated with the different quality of the product. And I'm not sure that's the case anymore. As you said, I don't really understand why that is, but it doesn't seem to be. Maybe ingredient prices are coming down. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
I think when you're the national brand supplier, you do a lot of research and development, right? And that comes with a cost that you've been working on for many years, and that goes into the price for a period of time. So when you think about a number 7, some of this, I think the technology they're going to launch soon, they've been working on for, I want to say, over 10 years. I don't even want to quote the number of years, for a very long time to try to figure out how to make it work. So it comes with, okay, how do we price this in a way to offset all of the R&D that you've been doing over time? With that being said, your point is spot on. As ingredient prices can come down, when freight costs come down, whenever you have those kind of costs, those are other ways to help to offset some of the costs you take on with the R&D. That's why own brands, when it comes into play, can be a way that we can help offset costs too. And, number 7, from a marketing standpoint, they do marketing, but they probably don't do the same kind of they don't have the same kind of marketing budget that maybe a very large supplier would have. And so that's another way that the costs can be offset a little bit to make it more reasonable.
Awesome. So just as we're running out of time here, Heather, and I've enjoyed our conversation so much. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know I asked you kind of out of the blue, and you were so kind to immediately say yes. So thank you again. You mentioned and you hinted at that in a few stores you were piloting some changes to the shopping experience. Anything that that's happening right now, and as our listeners all over the country, that they can go into a Walgreens and say, oh, hey, that's different and something that you're excited about?
Yeah. So not a pilot, but the moves that we're making in skincare is we're leading with dermatologist-led brands. So brands that are formulated by dermatologists, supported by dermatologists, recommended by dermatologists. You're going to see those are the front and center in our skincare aisle. And that has been a new merchandising strategy that we have implemented. And we're going to even drive further, bringing our therapeutic brands even closer to those derm brands so that we can make sure that that's as visible to the customers as possible. And then the rest of the brands will kind of follow. Not to say that those brands aren't great, but we know that it's important that we put that healthcare aspect there first. Make sure when you only have 7 or 8 minutes with them that they can find it very fast.
Okay, perfect. I've learned so much. So everybody, this has been Heather Hughes. She's the Group Vice President and General Merchandise Manager at Walgreens over beauty, personal care, and seasonal. I'm Dr. Ted Lane. I'm the co-host of Skincare Confidential. Don't forget to subscribe and share. And we hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have any questions, please send them to info@scienceofskincaresummit.com. We will look at those questions and try and answer them in future episodes. Maybe even ask our guests to weigh in as well. But anyway, Heather, thank you so much once again.
Of course. Thank you so much, Dr. Ted, for having me on the show.
My pleasure. Take care, everybody.